All I hear from anybody now when I'm walking down the streets is,
Diesel, what's your favorite mangoes? Diesel, you have the best taste of anyone I know. Please share your favorite mangoes with us.
So that's what I'm going to be doing. Today, I'll be sharing and ranking my top 10 favorite mangoes of all time, along with the hottest waifus from each series. So this is kind of cheating because I have two in one spot, but even though these two short mangoes are less than 30 chapters, both reads have left a lasting impact on me. Uzumaki is about a world slowly spiraling out of control, and Horizon follows the journey of two kids during a post-apocalyptic world. Dialogue-heavy series aren't exactly my thing, even though you'll see some of those on this list as we go along. So what makes these two reads great for me is that the artwork kind of tells the story, especially Horizon. Uzumaki has a lot of great horrific imagery that still sticks in my mind since my first read of it. It also has a lingering feeling of hopelessness. Horizon's a little different, where you feel a possibility of things getting better for the two main characters, and I think that feeling of a possible good ending is what kept me around. I don't mind short reads, but even so, I can't shake off that feeling of wanting more, so unfortunately I gotta put these two down low in my top 10. Waifu number 10 is the fucking slug kid. Can't wait to see him animated in the Adult Swim show. I actually saw the movie Battle Royale before reading the manga, and it's one of my all-time favorite films. I appreciated how much it didn't hold back in its symbolism of how far students will go to one-up each other in a very brutal school system. I never really cared for the Hunger Games. A PG-13 rating for a premise about children killing each other was doomed from the start to me. It also has a ton of teen dystopian cliches that I despise. Battle Royale has none of that and doesn't hold back. The manga even takes it to the next level. You could brush this off as just mindless, edgy violence, but that aspect of the series is what gives us the fantastic artwork. What Battle Royale does well at is giving most of the students distinct personalities, allowing the characters to play off of each other. So the fucked up premise isn't the only aspect that makes Battle Royale engaging. If you've seen the movie and want a more in-depth version of the story, I'd check this out. Waifu number 9 for the Battle Royale will probably have to be Kiriyama because I like bad boys. Alright, so I kind of love and hate this series. Let me just say that even though I really like Hunter x Hunter and it's in my top 10, there is a lot about it that pisses me off. First off, it is one of the most dialogue-heavy reads I've had to get through. The fact that some of the speech bubbles are 30-page essays is ridiculous. Sometimes my goddamn eyeballs will burn after reading just one panel. Second, while I like the overall world building and story, there is some needless convoluted shit thrown in for no reason. Like that one arc when they get sucked into a video game, and the author explains every single fucking mechanic. Now, on one hand, it's pretty cool to get this much detail in this fictional world. It's good world building, I guess. On the other hand, who gives a fucking shit what all these different cards do? They literally explain every single goddamn card in this game. Do you expect me to remember all the rules or, what they do? What are some of the effects? Even though this arc picks up in the second half, I was drooling on my fucking skull. Unfortunately, these aren't nitpicks for me, and it's the main reason I struggle to jump back into the story. However, the stuff that's good is really good. The top tier writing definitely makes up for these issues. The Chimera arc is easily one of my favorite sagas ever. And even though Hunter x Hunter throws in some convoluted, needless bullshit, I still wouldn't say there's a bad arc overall. While the power system seems contrived sometimes, it is what separates Hunter x Hunter from other battle shonen. The fights have a lot of thought put into them where characters actually have to think about their next move, like a chessboard. The characters are also another reason why I adore this series. Each one has their own diverse personality that brings life into the setting. The ultimate waifu from Hunter x Hunter has got to be Miram. I think this character really takes this series to the next level in terms of writing. I was expecting a lot jumping into this Viking series with incredible art, and it did not disappoint at first. I'm kind of on the same page as most people where I believe the first two sagas are absolute masterpieces, but there is a noticeable drop in quality in the third saga. Personally, I enjoyed the third saga, kept me interested all the way till the end, but it's definitely not as deep and complex as the first two. The fourth saga, however, is nowhere near the same level of quality as the first two sagas, and I'm sorry to say it's kind of boring. And not only that, but I feel like the third and fourth saga both introduce jump the shark moments. If you'd read Vinland Saga, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just warning you, it gets kind of stupid around the third and fourth arcs. Vinland Saga is supposed to be grounded and realistic, at least that's how it started. Yeah, there's a dude who can lift whole ass logs, but that was the extent of immersion breaking. So yeah, bit of a quality drop after the second saga. That being said, the first two stories are very solid. The journey of Thorfinn and Escalade is top tier storytelling. The characters actually behave as they should in the setting they're in. Vikings were brutal, and Vinland Saga doesn't shy away from this fact no matter who is the protagonist or antagonist. While the current arc isn't as interesting, it still offers a reason for me to care and continue reading. Waifu number 7 is Escalade. Thorfinn is second, but it's pretty close. Claymore is about a group of female warriors who are tasked to slay monsters while uncovering the mystery behind their origin. It's a story about a woman named Claire who builds herself up from the weakest to the strongest Claymore, and it's a very intriguing underdog story. Not only that, but there's also a lingering mystery element that adds another layer to the story. The series isn't super complex or anything, but it's a solid read from beginning to end with interesting characters. I will say, while the art and the designs of the monsters are very creative and unique, one of my gripes with this series is that towards the end, there are way too many claymores introduced, and it's kind of hard to differentiate between each one, considering that their only key trait is a different haircut. That's more of a nitpick, though. Waifu number 6 is Miria, because battle scars are very attractive on the female specimen. I was originally going to watch this show, but I realized that English dub voice actors turn on the monkey part of my brain, and I don't know how to read English subtitles, so I decided to read the manga, and I couldn't stop. It's a little over 100 chapters, but it felt like a lot less, in a good way. A thriller that involves a lot of mind games didn't allow a dull moment. This series focuses a lot on the characters conversing with each other, yet for the most part, it never felt too dialogue heavy. Like most people, L and Light are my favorites, while the side characters are okay. I don't remember half their names and didn't care too much about them. I'm also on board with the second half of Death Note not being as strong as the first, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it was bad. Now, even though L is a little cutie patootie, and emo boys have that mysterious element to them, it is confirmed canon that he rarely bathes. So Light wins waifu number 5.
Oh my god, how could you put that mainstream bullshit right under Monster?
Shut up, I like both. Monster is very similar to Death Note, but it keeps the same quality from beginning to end. It also lacks a supernatural element to it, making it more grounded. And yeah, the writing is probably a lot better. Monster is undoubtedly one of the best stories ever written, but there are longer reads that I've invested more time in. Regardless, top 4 ain't a bad spot. Unlike Death Note, the side characters are way more memorable and have depth, even if they only appear in just one chapter. Each one could have their own separate character study because of the amount of personality and life put into them. Dr. Tenma is a very relatable protagonist. I don't want to spoil too much, so all I'll say is, if you're into well thought out thrillers with many plot twists, definitely check this out. Now, as for the pick for a waifu number 4, it's a close competition between Grimmer, Johan, and that sexy gargantuan behemoth. But Johan is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction, so I gotta give it to him. When I first read One Punch Man, I thought this shit would get old fast. One-time gimmicks such as main character one-shots all enemies doesn't exactly provide a sturdy, long premise, but I'm happy to say I was proven wrong because this concept was not only taken full advantage of, but it branches out to the side characters and how a being like Saitama affects them. Obviously, the art is next level and a good hook for anyone starting a new action series. There are very few mangas that have me pause for a few minutes just to explore the high-detailed double panels. But what I like about this read the most are the superheroes. Each one has their own distinct personality, their own insecurities, strengths, weaknesses. Some of them don't have too much depth, but I'm never bored when the story focuses on just one of the heroes. One of my favorites being Metal Bat. The villains overall could be a little stronger. They're not bad, but of course in a series where the main character one-shots the villains, it becomes difficult to really flesh out certain characters. But in order to have this premise in the first place, you have to sacrifice villains with incredible depth. My waifu is King because of his entertaining fights and his ability to one-shot Dragon Ball verse. Man, I love this series so much. So much so that when Moist Panties claimed his love for the show was dying, I was prompted to make a video about it. Yes, the series is super long and it's not for everyone, but I think everyone should at least give it a try in order to experience the grand story that is the One Piece. So let's cover the bad stuff first, because I do have my gripes. I feel like the quality of the series dipped a little bit after the time skip. I enjoyed every single arc from East Blue, but stuff like Punk Hazard was borderline to me. I don't know if I would call it bad, I just, kind of forgettable. Also, the art isn't always the cleanest, so there are a handful of moments of rereading to truly understand what's happening. The Wano arc was also way too long. That being said, those are my only complaints. The good definitely outweighs the mediocre. This is probably my favorite main cast of characters because of how different and likable each one is. Each Straw Hat member has their own dreams and character development, and if there's one member of the crew you don't like, well, there's somebody else you can get attached to and follow. Another journey to focus on. The world building is filled with diverse locations and unique character designs. The fights can be a little repetitive sometimes, but choreography is usually engaging. These Blue fights did feel like they had a little more thought put into them, though. I'd fuck Chopper. I used to brush off Berserk as some edgelord fantasy. Seeing panels of a humping demon horse kind of turned me off a bit, but I introduced myself with the 1997 show of the Golden Age, went back to reread the story from the beginning, and man do I feel stupid. Now I understand why fans of Berserk act like elitist jackasses half the time. This shit is next level. The amount of depth put into the three main characters and the relationship between Guts, Griffith, and Couscous will always be something I remember. I love One Punch Man's artwork, but I still think Berserk is better. They're both different, that's fair, but nothing beats that dark fantasy element to me. There were a handful of times while reading Berserk where I actually said, wow, because the artwork was just that fucking good. Obviously, it's not the only thing that's top tier. If you've read Berserk, you know the story is amazing. And the message of always fighting no matter how much you struggle is such a powerful perspective that you can apply to your own life. Many series do the don't give up moral, but Berserk's story of eternal struggle makes it easy to get attached to Guts with all the shit he goes through. Unfortunately, there's one glaring problem with Berserk that I have, and that's Puck. What the fuck is this fourth wall breaking dipshit doing in this story?
It's so the story isn't too dark, and he helps liven it up.
I understand that, and he wasn't terrible during the Black Swordsman arc, but oh my god, when there was a Star Wars reference and him putting on the clone trooper helmets, and I feel like I was reading a different story. It's not funny, it's not cute, it's not quirky, it's fucking gonorrhea on paper. To end on a more positive note though, the battle for waifu number 1 is a pretty tough one. While I do like my man Guts, I think Griffith is a more intriguing character to me. Alright, bye and shit.